So we welcome our today's speaker, Ms. Juhi Arora, for today's topic on the matrimonial dispute and its legal solutions. So in the series of the webinars which we are doing, today we have one more speaker, Juhi Gupta, who is an expert of family law matters. Now I give it over to Vanshika. Vanshika, please introduce our today's speaker for the webinar. Thank you. Over to you.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining the ongoing webinar series of Nitesh Mehra and Associates. The topic of today's webinar is Matrimonial Disputes and Legal Solutions by Advocate Supreme Court of India, Ms. Juhi Arora. Our presenter, Ms. Juhi Arora, is the founder of Juhi Arora and Associates and has been practicing for a decade in Supreme Court, Delhi High Court, and various district courts. Ma'am is one of the members in the advisory board of Lloyd Law College, Greater Noida. Ma'am is also one of the employers of Corporate Resource Center Group, Amity, Noida. Ma'am is also legal panelist in ethical committee of GeneScar Diagnostics, a sister chain of IVF hospitals by the name Seeds of Innocence. Ma'am has presented and got issued the notice to the sports ministry on behalf of her celebrity client, Para-Olympian Naresh Sharma, before Honorable High Court. Ma'am has also fought against CBSE board to add the language Sanskrit in the books along with other advocates. Ma'am has an expertise of family law, though taking care of all the matters civil and criminal. Ma'am will be enlightening us about the today's webinar. You all are requested to take a note of all the doubts and that will be taken after the webinar. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. I would like to give a vote of thanks to Mr. Nitesh as well for conducting beautiful webinars and giving so much knowledge and enlightening the lawyers, as the law is an ever-learning process, I would say. Everybody has to learn till the last breath in this field. So attending these webinars with distinguished people sharing their experience on this platform is really good. Specifically, we have such time today. Maybe tomorrow we would be busy, all of us in our own practice. But tomorrow, because of quarantine time and this COVID time, we are there to utilize by attending these webinars. Even I'm attending others' webinars too. So I would be really obliged for giving a platform to share my own experience. I will not introduce myself as she has already introduced about me. I would just say this, that I would be sharing today my own experience in the matrimonial law. As I have been practicing for more than a decade and my expertise is in matrimonial, though I never wanted or never landed here in this field to practice matrimonial specifically, but maybe God has given me this field and I've been getting good judgments. I've got relief from my client in this particular area. So probably that's why I have here, and I would try to express all of my experience with coordinating it with the law and coordinating it with judgments, so that tomorrow, if client converts to you, if client turn up to you with some problem, you would be having this particular issue, so that you can correlate with this webinar with that problem and can give a better relief to a client. Because when I was in my young days, when I started this practice, what used to happen then, when client used to come to us, he would have shared his problem. Then at times we do not know that what exactly legal remedies that my client actually have. And we would try to go here and there by calling senior people, by researching here and there that what exactly I can get the relief for this particular problem. But then by the time passes, we have got to know that this problem can be associated with this law and can associated with this judgment and can get a relief for a client. So this is what I'm gonna do today. So I'm not a lecturer or a professor so that I can give a deep knowledge of each and every subjects of family law, but for sure I would try to concise this session to a learning session for you all. So I would start with the topic here. It says is matrimonial problems and their solutions. What is the matrimonial problem? There are so many of matrimonial problems. It's not only about the divorce, or it's not only about the maintenance, or it's not only about the custody. There are huge problems which accumulate basically when it starts with a single litigation and it converts to into a 10 or 20 litigations at times. What exactly are these, and what exactly you should have a knowledge of it, so that if tomorrow some problems comes in front of you, so that you can give the exact solution. For an example, I would say maybe a client of maintenance is with you and you are fighting a case for maintenance for your client. Tomorrow the other side files a income affidavit, because here while giving the maintenance, granting the maintenance, court asks for affidavits from both the sides of income and assets affidavits. So tomorrow if the other person files the affidavit wrongly, has stated a wrong information, what would you do? If you would really know the law, if you would really know the things that you should revert back on this, so your client would be more confident and she would get better relief, and she would be more confident with you as a lawyer, and you will be more confident while arguing in the matter. So if something this time turns to you, you can file a perjury application. What is that? Basically you file an application which says that giving a wrong evidence on oath, it is an offense under IPC. So there are specific judgments also on perjury which says that if you have been there was a judgment of 2016 of High Court, that was Sejal Ben Tejas Bhai Chavotia versus State of Gujarat. This was a judgment which came in October 2016 by Gujarat High Court, which says that when court can held that person and can be penalized, and can penalize that person by giving false information. So if you would have the knowledge that there is a word of perjury or there is a law of perjury, so you could easily and immediately can file a perjury application against that particular party, and court can give you a relief on it, and even you will have more confidence to have your case, so that it will help your client and your practice too. So this would be the kind of session I would be leading forward. So, and later on we can keep 5-10 minutes for question and answers too. So I would start with the problems. So there are problems which can be sorted down by mutual consent, or it can be sorted down after a litigation period and converted into a mediation. But first and end, there can be problems which can be sorted out through mutual consent. If problems of matrimonial dispute occurs between a couple, and with the intervention of relatives and friends, people get settled their problems, so they can go with mutual consent divorce. And in this mutual consent divorce also, there was a recent judgment which came in 2000 which came in 2017, Amardeep Singh versus Harveen Kaur. Amardeep Singh versus Harveen Kaur, Supreme Court judgment 2017, which says that the 6 months cooling off period would be waived off. Herein, if tomorrow your client comes to you for a mutual consent divorce, and they say we want to get it done as soon as possible, so there is a probability, but there are some conditions which were laid down in this judgment. You have to fulfill that conditions, and then if the court permits you, because it's a discretionary power again, so if the court permits you, you can get the mutual consent divorce without having that 6 months period. So probably prima facie there should be some conditions which should be fulfilled by the parties, like there should be maintenance alimony settlement should be there, minimum separation period of the parties should be 18 months, minimum separation should be between the parties of 18 months, then it should be alimony, custody, all the issues have already been settled between the parties, so the separation should be like this. These are some parameters which the couple has to follow, and if these parameters have been followed, then the court can provide you that waiving of period after filing the application after the first motion in B2. So this was the judgment which came in 2017, and it actually helps the lives of so many litigants which were really in depression and already been filing and litigating from last so many years, and then they have to again wait for 6 months for mutual consent divorce. So this was the one prospect when you can settle your dispute from mutual consent. What if there is no mutual consent, and there are matrimonial problems, and you have to go for a solution for it. Let me come one by one. So now matrimonial problems can be exercised by matrimonial law, but there are two sides of it. One is civil and one is criminal. So just to give it a bifurcation so that it would be easy for me, it will not jungle up. So that is why I am going with civil and criminal, both of them side by side. Now we would start with civil side of that. What are the civil remedies of the matrimonial problems a client have? If you approach the court, what are those civil remedies in the matrimonial disputes? Like if the person and the parties are litigating and having the dispute, they have the civil remedies like for filing of divorce, as divorce is a civil remedy. It's not a criminal remedy. Adultery though used to be a criminal, but now it has been decriminalization of the adultery has happened. So now divorce is a civil remedy, and divorce can be filed various parameters. There have been grounds for divorce which has been mentioned in the Hindu Marriage Act. According to those grounds, you can file your divorce petition before the court of law, concerned court of law, and get your party relief from divorce by filing the divorce petition. So now, what different is there in divorce? Everybody knows we can go and file the divorce and we can get the divorce on various grounds that has been explained in Hindu Marriage Act. But what else we can approach with? What other ground we can approach with? I would request and to jot it down if anybody can, if everybody can do it. If it's not possible, then they can ask for the same, and we would surely try to give them the copies of the judgments. So this is by the Manish Kumar versus Sandhya Kumari. This judgment has been headed by me itself. I myself has argued this judgment, and the judgment got reported. It came up in 2016, 21st October, and it came into newspapers the next morning. What was the judgment was all about? The judgment was all about on the irretrievable breakdown of marriage. Here I have got the divorced for my client on the irretrievable breakdown of marriage. We have been denied for divorce from the lower court, and then we argued the matter in the high court and tried to explain the judge about the irretrievable breakdown of marriage. The marriage has been broken down. The parties have been separated from more than 8 years, and they have been litigating from more than 6-7 years. Only 6 months period was there when they stayed together. There was no issue out of the said wedlock. So these were some parameters. Both of them made allegations against each other, and they were not being proved in the lower court in the section 9, which was filed by the lady. So this was the some of the strong points which we headed with the judgments of Supreme Court, and the court was pleased to give us the decree of divorce on irretrievable breakdown of marriage. So this was the judgment which came in Manish Kumar versus Sandhya Kumari, where the court held that living separately and for many years and putting allegations on each other is actually irretrievable breakdown of marriage. Now these judgments have been quoted various other cases. So this is one of the aspects where you can also approach the court apart from the grounds given in the Hindu Marriage Act on irretrievable breakdown of marriage. But then again, I said it's discretionary power. It's not that if you are coming up with the judgment or you're coming up with this particular law, or, sorry, it's not a law as of now, particularly coming up with this ground which is actually not a law right now, so you will get the relief. It is all a discretionary power. It's just that you can rest your case and you can give your case 100% with precedence and with your facts coordinating with the judgments. That's the best I can tell you. So now, what is the next thing? The next thing after divorce, you can also seek for nullity. That if if a party comes to know that a fraud has taken place in the marriage within 1 year of the marriage, the party can go for nullity as per the Hindu Marriage Act, and she or he can claim for nullifying the marriage in the court of law against the other party. So in that case, the divorce tag would not be on the lady or the boy. The nullified marriage, the nullity tag would be there. So that is people tag in the sense, particularly I'm telling about that what status of the parties would be. So status would be as the nullified status, annulled status would be of the marriage rather than a divorce status. That can only happen if you have filed the application for nullity only within 1 year of the marriage, and with some fraud information has been occurred with you, and you have a proper evidence to that particular fraud which has occurred. So now what is else we can go with this matrimonial dispute? So now after this, you can also seek for judicial separation. Judicial separation is also one of the law which provides that the parties can separate it judicially, and they can they will not be, their status would not be as a divorce, they would be judicially separated. Only the alimony part would be discussed, only the child part would be discussed, so that who would keep the who would have the visitations and custody and all. So that is also one of the ground. Now other point is like that one more civil side of the matrimonial dispute is like writs. You can go and file the writs. You can also go and file the writs in the high courts, and specifically writ which is common in the matrimonial side is the habeas corpus writ. It is basically writ which you seeks from the court regarding the as per the habeas corpus writ has been concerned, you seek the you seek the information. You seek the information of the particular person who has been detained or who has been missing. Like tomorrow, if somebody comes to you and say, my wife or my husband has gone away with the child, and he or she is not, the whereabouts of the child and the husband or the wife is not been known to you. So what remedy you have, what you will do? At max, you would be, if you would not be having much about the knowledge, you can suggest that you can go and ask for a missing complaint. You can file for a missing complaint. But after a point of time, when there is a missing complaint, even in stations, police people does not take any action if you're not able to get the whereabouts even after the missing complaint. Then what else? Then there is a provision of habeas corpus, where you can file the writ in the high court, and the court can order the state to get the information of the missing person. So in that case, there was a case which I also did in my earlier times, and every time, even today also, we are getting the writ submitted in the courts, and we are getting the summons also against my client also in writ. So it's a very good provision, and it really helps your client if actually your client is not knowing the whereabouts of the missing child or a missing husband. So this is also civil side of a matrimonial problem. That what others, I'm right now going with the civil sides of the matrimonial. Now what else? Then if there is a problem of a child, then you can go for the custody. That you can file the custody case of the child. You can file for the visitation of the child. And there was a judgment which came in 2019 only, Supreme Court last year, Anuj Chaturvedi versus Jyoti. It was a very beautiful judgment which said that the child has to have the affection of both the parties. Child has to have the affection of both the parties. It means that you cannot deprive of the child with the visitation right, because first thing which comes into the mind of a woman or a husband who keeps the child is that deprive the other person with the visitation, because that's the most easiest thing, most easiest way to trouble the other partner in a matrimonial dispute, because people think that that depriving the partner with child visitation would be easy for him to attack or easy for her to attack the other side's mentality, and would be on the better side. Emotionally, they can uh, do it. So now, what is this? You can follow the judgment which says that you cannot deprive the child from the affection of both the parties. That both the parties have to have the right to get the visitation of the child under Hindu Marriage Act, and also as per this judgment. So this judgment is a wonderful judgment, and you can keep noted down these judgments so that tomorrow if problems come to you, you can move an application in the concerned court. The court can allow you for visitation, court can allow you for child custody also on these parameters. Of course, every case and every facts have different uh, facts. Every case have different facts. It doesn't mean that every precedent will follow on every case, but of course it can give some life, it can give some spark to your case, and it can give some confidence to you even to argue, and your chance of getting a remedy is probability is much higher than going without the precedents in the court. And what else you have? The civil remedy and civil matrimonial problems, wherein you can seek for civil, you can seek in civil side. Then there is a injunction suit. If the partner of if a person is having a problem in from the other partner, that she or he may be asked to get out from the house of that particular matrimonial, she or he can approach the concerned court with the injunction, which has to be filed again in the family court. And as this is a matrimonial problem, so each and every problem of a civil nature has to be filed in the family courts. Family courts have the powers to entertain these kinds of matter. So you can seek for injunctions, you can seek for restrainment orders against the husband, or for the particular mortgaging, selling, or alienating the matrimonial property. So it is a way you can go and seek. Then another type of injunction is called anti-suit injunction. What is that anti-suit injunction? I think most of them must have not heard it also, and many of them must have heard it also. This is basically, I would explain here because I have done this. Yesterday, my client came to me. Yesterday, mean to say a few months back, my client came to me. She said, my husband is in Germany. He has sent some summons to me from the court of Germany. I lived there in Germany after the marriage for some time. There are 2 children born out of this wedlock. One was born in India, one was born in Germany. And now he has filed these cases from Germany, and I've shifted to India because there was a continuous torture and domestic violence on me. So what could I do? I cannot go Germany. I don't want to go to Germany. What should I do? So here we have filed an anti-suit injunction in the court of law, and by the God's grace, after arguing at almost a whole day before the Honorable High Court, Delhi High Court, we have got that injunction, and that injunction was so amazing and it was so breathtaking when we heard about it. What was that injunction? That the husband was being restrained from filing or prosecuting any case against the wife in the court of Germany. So that was a breathtaking judgment when we got. It was a very good experience that was being given in my own judgment. I myself argue that judgment. That was in Charanjit versus Dr. Charanjit versus Dr. Vijayant Sabharwal. That was a Delhi High Court judgment which came in 2019, 20th 9th 2019. That was a Charanjit Kaur versus Dr. Vijayant Sabharwal. So in that particular judgment, Delhi High Court has granted us a relief that the husband was restrained from filing or prosecuting any case in the court of law in Germany against the wife and even the children, because he has filed the custody case also there in the Germany. So that was a very wonderful experience about the anti-suit injunction. So this was basically civil side of matrimonial dispute, that is where we can say a broad matrimonial dispute, inter-country matrimonial dispute. That was one of the relief which we have got in inter-country matrimonial relief. So then at length the matter was being argued. There were so many other conditions which we fulfilled. There were so many judgments which were laid down, and if the said judgment, if you will read, you will come down with those judgment also which I relied upon while arguing that particular matter. We would share it with all of them if everybody wants it. Then the other civil side is that if there was a widow which come to me which says that I have a problem from my matrimonial in-laws, as they have thrown me out of the home after the death of my husband. What remedy I have? So, as per the Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act, widows have the right have the absolute right, in fact, on the properties where the husband has the right over that property. Husband has the legal right over that property, and now, by God forbid, the husband is no more, woman will have the absolute right on the particular property. So she can file the case under Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act and can claim. And what we have also asked for the suit for partition in the particular case, which was filed in Noida, Greater Noida case, Greater Noida courts, and we have moved the application of indigent person under the order 33 of CPC for granting the relief of not paying the court fees also, because she has moved the case as an indigent person, because she was having the problems of various, she was suffering from various ailments like she was ailing with tuberculosis, she was ailing with some kidney problems, there were some problems which she was ailing with. There was a good handful case of moving an application under a indigent person while asking for the suit for partition, where the husband also has the right in the particular property. So there was a judgment which came in 2015 by the Justice M.Y. Iqbal, which says that the widow can claim maintenance over the in-laws, and the widow has absolute right on the maintenance and the property via the operation of Section 14(1) of Hindu Succession Act. So this was the remedy which the civil side, these are the civil side remedies of the matrimonial dispute. I would come to the remedies of the matrimonial dispute on the criminal side also. What all criminal cases, or what all applications she can move under the criminal provisions also. So, but now I'm coming with the one by one, coming with civil provisions. So this was the case where we got the relief by filing the case under Hindu Maintenance and Adoptions Act for getting the maintenance, for asking the maintenance. This woman can have also claimed the maintenance under DV Act also. She can claim the maintenance under DV Act also. And there was a judgment which came by the Supreme Court itself in 2019 by the name of Ajay Kumar versus Lata and others. Herein, the party has got the relief of maintenance against the brother-in-law. So that was also a very wonderful judgment given by the Supreme Court under domestic violence. Now this was the quasi-civil side, because the DV Act is a quasi-civil. It's neither a criminal nor a civil, it is a quasi-civil. So this is also one of the remedy wherein you can seek with a widow by going and approaching the court under Domestic Violence Act also. So under even the Domestic Violence Act, she can go, and in this judgment, the court has laid down the procedure, and court has also asked the brother-in-law and upheld the court that the brother-in-law have to contain the sister-in-law, deceased wife of the deceased brother, and from the properties or from the assets of the husband which were in the custody of that particular person. So now what next? Now next is that the husband can also file for the declaration of the properties of which were being taken in the name of the wife. This is a very common problem which we are coming up every day, that I have taken a property in the name of my wife. Now wife has been, now relations between me and my wife has been strange. What remedy I have? So now people generally claim that that is a Benami transaction. But that there was a judgment which came into highlight by the Delhi High Court, and that was a landmark basically, which gives that the husband who have the specific sources of income from purchasing the particular property which was in the name of the wife will not be under the Benami Act. That will come into the section 29A B of the exception 3 of the Benami Transaction Act. So that was the exception 3, that it will prohibit these kinds of properties to come into Benami, wherein the husband has specifically have the source of income from purchasing those properties, and that husband can show the reliable source, and that was purchased in the name of the wife. That came in by judgment which was held by Justice Valmiki Mehta. That judgment came by the name of Manoj Arora versus Mamta Arora in 2018. The judgment came in 2018 by the name of Manoj Arora versus Mamta Arora. It came into newspapers that the husband can claim the ownership and on the property which has been purchased by himself only in the name of the wife will not come into Benami transaction according to these parameters. So these judgment these provisions, these matrimonial problems, coordinating with the law, I am telling you so that it will be easy for you to understand, because tomorrow if something comes to you, the problem of your client, so you might relate this webinar with those problem, and you would have the specific remedy with you so that you can go to the concerned court of law. So this judgment was also a great judgment which came it was helping the men's side in this particular. So now what else? Then if somebody is agreed with the orders of the high courts or of the district courts in divorce, everybody knows that the matrimonial problems, and they can approach to the concerned superior court in appeals also. So in family court, they have 30 days for filing the appeal, coming with the impugned order. So you have 30 days to go and file the appeal in the High Court against the court of family order of the family court. So, but what extra thing where comes in the picture is that you can also go and file for the caveat. So in matrimonial law, the caveat can also come into the picture. This is also one of the civil remedy with one of the partner which have. What it says that caveat is basically a sword or a law which provides us to get relief for not passing any interlocutory order against the caveator without giving a chance to listen the particular person. So herein, when I filed the caveat in the High Court against the order which was passed, not against the in favor of the order which was favoring me, I filed the caveat that tomorrow if wife would go in the court and can ask for the interlocutory order of stay on that particular order of divorce, wherein I was granted divorce. So in that ways, she would be not heard interlocutory, she would not be heard single-handedly without listening to me. That caveat will help me in these kinds of cases. So tomorrow, if you get the decree and your husband turns up to you, and so the particular client comes up to you, that tomorrow if my wife can go and challenge the particular judgment, what remedy should I do? If the judgment would be stayed, I would be again contesting the matter. I would be again not able to get second marriage. So you can express that, you can go and file the caveat in the superior court, which will not hear the other party without listening to you. So that interlocutory order of stay on the impugned judgment will not be given to party against you if the caveat has already been filed. So these were the civil sides. And coming to the end of the civil side, there are transfer petitions also, that if somebody is aggrieved from the particular distance of getting the litigation, they can move the transfer petition in the Supreme Court for transferring the case from one state to other, as the Supreme Court has only the power to stay the matter and can transfer the matter from one state to the another. So this is one of the provisions of transfer petition, which helps that court can give the remedy or give the relief to a particular person who has filed the transfer petition, that can by matter who has been filed in Mumbai High Court can be transferred to the Chhattisgarh District Court or some other district court, family courts, wherein the wife has already filed so many of cases, so that the other matter which was being filed by the husband can be transferred from the one state to the another state after application moved by the concerned party in the Supreme Court for transfer petitions. But now transfer petitions are also not, it's not the case that girls going for a transfer petition would be easily allowed. Now also courts are becoming strict these days, and there are some parameters which you have to fulfill for the transfer petitions also, that you have to make the court believe that there is not a possibility from you to go there. There are some threats being given to you, or there are some other problems which the gravity of the case is that you cannot move here and there, evidence can be tampered. So these are also the issues which have to come up before the court. It's not only that you do not have the money to go, or the distance is too much. So these only grounds will not work for you. You have to make some strong grounds so that the court can allow your transfer petitions also, because now courts have been getting strict these days, day by day, so that otherwise every woman would come here in the court and ask for transferring the case. So these were the civil side. So going for the last is that contempt of court. So contempt of court is also a civil contempt and a criminal contempt. What if tomorrow you had a settlement with the wife and she did not abide with the settlement? So you can easily go with the contempt petition and you can move the contempt petition. There was a client there who had settled the matrimonial dispute before the family court, and the matter was being sorted out. But then the husband did not abide with the terms and conditions of the settlement. He breached some points of settlement. We immediately went to the contempt of court. We filed the application in the High Court for contempt of court, and the orders were being passed and the notices were being issued in the present petition. So this is one of the matrimonial remedy of a dispute. If tomorrow settlement or some disobedience of an order or a judgment of the court happens, so you can go for the contempt petition in the particular court of law. So now there is a normal problem also that comes to me, which says that I am not living with my wife from last so many years, so I would be immediately getting a divorce. So I would try to explain that generally people have that problem, that if you are living separately with your husband or your wife from long years, that can be one of the ground for you to get a divorce. But it's not that court will not follow the procedure, and just you are living from last more than some years, so court will immediately go for a decree of divorce. No, this is not the case. Court will follow their own procedure. Court will go with proper own procedure, and you have to prove that there were been definite times that you have not been, and this is one of the ground wherein you can prove that you have not been living together. So this can be a good ground for going for divorce. Then the other question which generally comes for our clients is that no limit, what is the limitation in filing these kinds of cases? So I would say there's no limitation, because it is a continuous It is a continuous cause of action. Herein, when it comes to matrimonial, there's a continuous cause of action occurs, as it is a violence which has been occurring on a lady. So it is a continuous cause of action which comes into the picture. So hence there is no limitation. You can file it at any time. So these are the civil side. Now I'll go with the criminal side one by one, so that what all criminal remedies or what provisions which have, so that you can go for relief for your client. First is like that 498, 34, 406. Everybody knows that it's a very common, that anybody who has having a problem with a matrimonial problem from a husband or in-laws, you can go and lodge a complaint, and that can be converted into an FIR later. So that is one of the remedy. But why I'm coming to this remedy is everybody knows that, and but why I'm coming to this point is that everybody knows that you have a provision of 498A, but you might not be knowing that if you are staying at your husband's place in Mumbai, and you have come to Delhi and to your parents' place, now you have a problem that you have been thrown out of that matrimonial home. So can you go and lodge your complaint or an FIR under 498 from Delhi? So does that jurisdiction come? Because generally when you go with a complaint to police, they will say that the madam, these things have happened in Mumbai. You go to Mumbai. Why you're coming to the court? Why you're coming to the police station of Delhi? You go to Mumbai and better file a complaint there, because the cause of action occurs there. No, but now you can give the answers even to the police stations. You can give your answer to the client also, and to yourself also. The judgment which came in 2019 in Rupali Devi versus State of UP. It was a judgment by the Supreme Court which says that 498 is the continuing offense. Hence, the girl can file the FIR from the parents' place also. So it is a continuing offense in the eyes of law. So she can go and file the complaint from the parents' place also, which is there in Delhi or some other place. So nobody can stop you from filing in 498A from some other place where the cause of action has not been occurred also. So this is one of the good judgment which came, and it helps so many girls, because already we are in pain, and we are already been facing these kinds of cruelties at the hands of husbands and in-laws. Now even after for lodging the complaints, the other harassment also come to place when we are being denied to take that complaint or some other things. So this judgment will help so many sufferings and so many problems to a lady. She can go and directly file the complaint from there. Then there's an anticipatory bail provision which is there for a criminal side. This will help the men, that if the woman has filed a complaint against you under these provisions, you can go and file for an anticipatory bail. Anticipatory bail is that basically when the husband has not been detained. It's not that the FIR has not been lodged. The FIR has not been lodged, still you can go and file for anticipatory bail, and you can ask for anticipatory bail from the court of law. And there are some parameters which came in Supreme Court, which was being highlighted in Supreme Court. That was a recent judgment in 2020, January only, by the name of Sushila Agarwal others versus State of NCT of Delhi and others. So that was a judgment which came in 2020, which held that anticipatory bail are not time bound. Because generally, this is the most common question the client asks to you, that why, ma'am, अगर आप ये मुझे anticipatory bail लेके दे रहे हो, तो इसका कब तक रहेगा? Till then I can use this order. So it is not time bound. So no order of anticipatory bail is time bound. You can use it till the time you have not been given an arrest notice for filing the normal bail again, for filing the other bails, because the pre-arrest notice or the anticipatory bails are not time bound at all. Yes, the court at any point of time can ask you a condition for a limited provision of time. That can be only a condition bound by the court. But otherwise, if no condition is there, then it is not a time bound. Anticipatory bails are not time bound at all. So this was the one of the criminal side provisions of the uh, uh, matrimonial dispute. That if you're facing the matrimonial dispute, these are the criminal remedies as per the husband side, as per the wife side. So now I would try to finish it as soon as possible, as we are short on the time also. So now what other remedy is like 156(3) CRPC. What says that if if the police is not coming with the proper solution to you, if police is not lodging an FIR against your husband or against the wife for committing any particular uh, offense, so you can go and file a complaint or an application under 156(3) of CRPC for the magistrate, and you can ask the magistrate to order for a FIR and ask the magistrate, he can give the order to the police people state to investigate the matter and can ask to register an FIR too. So now other is that maintenance. A woman can also claim a maintenance in 125 CRPC also. So this is also one of the criminal side that she can claim for 125 CRPC. But there was a judgment which came in 2019 which expressively have given the proper belief that if you are already getting a maintenance in 125, that she will not be precluded from getting the other reliefs in domestic violence case, because generally if you've got a maintenance from DV, you cannot claim in 125. If you've got a in 125, you cannot go for DV case. It's not that. Nikhil Dahani versus Tania Benon Dahani came in 22/7/2019 by Supreme Court. This judgment helped you, will help you in further things if anybody preclude of your client from filing DV case if you have got a relief in 125. So this is a judgment. Then she can go and file the case in domestic violence under section 12 also, which provides the mental support, economic, monetary, physical, children issues, even the restrainment orders with respect to the children, restrainment order with respect to the property. You can get from DV Act. It's a wide act, it's a beautiful act, it's a wonderful act. If it can be read, all solutions, all the problems, solution to all the problems can be in this particular single act also. So it is a wonderful act. It applies to the married girls and also to the partners who are in live-in relationships also. So I must say that the Domestic Violence Act is a quasi-civil act which would help the lady to approach against the in-laws and also to the husband for various reliefs, like in economic relief, the violence against the protection orders. She can get the monetary relief, she can get the housing allowance, she can get so many reliefs under the same roof. That is called a DV Act. Even for the restrainment orders for children, regarding the children custody and visitations also. So, and what next? The other criminal side which I discussed, that was a perjury, which I also discussed with at the starting only, that if somebody is filing a wrong information, she can or he can go for perjury. This is the criminal side, and that there was a judgment which says that Sejal Bain versus Tejas Bhai Chavotia versus State of Gujarat, that came in 2016 by the High Court, which says that the concerned person who has given so has to particularly be penalized if particular person is giving the wrong information in the court. So now what is the quashing of FIR? Now again we have come the last of the criminal side. There can be many other remedies apart from it which I have come covering in this session, but maybe I have a time bound, and the maximum and the most common remedies I'm sharing here. One is the quashing of FIR also. What it says, and there is a judgment which is by the name of Parbat Bhai Ahir, Parbat Bhai Ahir and others versus State of Gujarat and others, came in 2017 by Supreme Court, wherein Supreme Court has laid down some provisions of quashing under 482, which has the inherent power of the High Court for quashing the FIR, that the parties have a dispute in civil dispute in nature, or parties have mutually settled their dispute. The gravity of the offense is not that much that the offense can be quashed, because any offense which is against the society cannot be quashed also. So these were the some provisions which were really laid down by the Supreme Court in the judgments regarding the question of FIR. Because tomorrow, if you agreed with the FIR, false FIR done by the wife against the husband, you can easily move to the question of FIR. Quickly, I would like to explain one example here, and I would try to end this, summarize this my session in another 2 minutes. There was a girl who filed a complaint of 498A against the husband, and after a year later, she again filed another complaint of rape against the husband and the other family members, male family members of the husband. So the husband, my client, come up to me and said that now police people are asking me to come for investigation on a complaint of rape. So I am little bit in problem. What should I do? So here we can move to the question for these kinds of FIR where have been fake, because she has not made any allegations of rape either in the domestic violence case or in the previous FIR or in the written statement given in a divorce petition filed by the husband. So these were the things which came up in the mind, and where the anticipatory bail was being given in that particular rape complaint also on these particular ground. So you have to apply your mind. You have to apply the mind to the pretext that the judge should have the alliance with your thinking. The client should be have alliance with your thinking, and should be coordinating with the precedents so that you can rest your case in the court of law. Then you can get the release, because the problems are so wide. It's the matrimonial problems are not only the problems which are related to only divorce. There are so many other problems which comes in the picture while you litigating. Like yesterday, there was a case where the wife and husband was living in a rented house. The dispute come out in such a way that the husband has to move out of the house. Wife did not moved out of the particular house. The landlord filed a suit for eviction. In this case, the landlord filed the suit for eviction against the husband and the wife also. So suit for eviction also comes into the picture in the civil side remedy. So these are so many cases, so many laws are being involved when it comes to the matrimonial, that it is so wide. You will have the endless examples, endless webinars to learn about the matrimonial law. Generally, it comes to the mind when it comes to the matrimonial law that it is so easy to come up with the cases, or it is easy to handle these kinds of cases. But I would say it is the most difficult problems, because here you have to deal with the emotions, and also you have to deal with the cases. So so these were the matrimonial dispute which generally and most commonly people faces, matrimonial litigants faces. These were the remedies related to those disputes which I was side by side countering on and giving you the side by side judgments to particular problems also. So I hope my session would be giving you little bit information according to my own piece of experience and piece of knowledge, as it's a never ending learning process. So we are learning every day. So now I would ask my team if they can ask the questions so that we can quickly come up with the questions and answers round. What best I can be able to answer you, I will answer. And if something which is it's like me to also research for it, I would take time for that particular thing, and I would ask the concerned person to get back with again.
Yeah, Siddhi, since the session was not it was very informative, as well as the judgment cited by the speaker today, that was having all bearing effect on all the matrimonial matters with all the aspects which has been dealt with. So I would also be like to ask our speaker for today, Juhi ma'am, to also provide the citation of the judgment which he has cited, so that enabling all the law students and the lawyers who are here to use them in their practical problems which they face by dealing with the client. So over to you, Siddhi. Just start asking the questions one by one. We are already running short on time.
Thank you, Nitesh. Ma'am, if you may allow me, then can I proceed? Juhi ma'am, am I audible to you? Hello?
I think
Nitesh,
there is some connection problem, so she'll be joining in a minute.
Sure, sir.
So we request the participants to remain on the line.
I request all the participants to please remain on board. There is some technical error and the speaker will be joining us shortly. Thank you.
Siddhi, since the ma'am is back, I think you can start taking the question. Siddhi.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes,
Sorry
sir.
for the inconvenience. There is some problem with some connection at my end. So I have tried somehow to come back. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's completely fine. Ma'am, although the webinar was very informative in how you segregated the civil and the criminal procedure, there are still certain questions that our participants want to ask. So I will just start with the questions one by one. Ma'am, the first questions comes from Sujata Srilokar, ma'am. She asks that domestic violence complaint can be filed before a women's cell and or before an MM court.
Domestic violence case has to be filed before the court. Women's cell is a cell where you have to file a complaint under 498 and other provisions of IPC. So there's a difference. There is an independent proceedings. Filing a complaint in CAW cell for lodging an FIR under provisions of IPC is an independent proceedings. They have their own channel. They have their own procedure that they go with proper one by one procedure, and that they will go with proper counseling, and they will mediating, and then they will investigate the matter and will lodge an FIR. Here in domestic violence, you have to file a complaint before the magistrate. So it is an application you have to file before the magistrate seeking the relief for monetary relief, residence relief, any other relief under the provisions of Domestic Violence Act 2005. So that is an independent proceedings. One is before the women's cell and one is before the court. One is the proper criminal procedure, one is the quasi-civil procedure. Fine. So one, if you will not turn up in CAW cell, they might lodge an FIR. But herein, if you might not turn up in DV after getting the summons, you would be moved, you would be ex parted. So you would be proceeded and ex parte in DV Act. So generally, so these are difference between both the proceedings, and they are independent proceedings. So the woman can go in both the proceedings. Simultaneously, she can go.
So, ma'am, to clarify it further, can we please just can you please throw some light that when a situation is there regarding domestic violence, so should a woman first go to the police station or can she directly approach the court?
No, she has to first approach the police. Directly, she can also approach to the court, but it will take time because you have to frame an application, you have to hire a lawyer, then you will file in the court. Court will give you a time to come up with particular date, and then you have to present your case. Fine. But here in Women's Cell, you can by yourself can write down. Lawyers are not allowed there. Even a litigants alone can go there and can ask for the relief, and they can start their proceedings. So first relief and the first aid she can get it would be getting from Women's Cell only.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Moving on to the next question. Ma'am, so the participant asks that if the property has been purchased from the ancestral money of husband, but the property is in the name of wife, now who is the true owner of the property, husband or the wife, and why what remedy the two have in the case?
Properties has been purchased from the ancestral money,
Right.
and it is in the name of the wife.
Wife, right, ma'am. Ma'am,
Of
should I
course,
repeat this
of
question?
course, no, it's okay. Of course, husband can go and claim for their ownership because it was been it was been purchased from the income of sources of the HUF. So it is the ownership can also be asked by the husband in light of that judgment which I told you, that it will not come under the Benami provisions. That judgment which I enlightened by the name of Manoj Arora versus Mamta Arora of 2018 by Delhi High Court.
Right, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, the next question is, what is the procedure for fasting the proceedings for asking maintenance? As we have seen that it takes a lot of months, the cases are pending for a lot of time, and that defeats the purpose of the petition. So, is there some period in which the interim maintenance is to be provided? If you can throw some light on
Yes,
that.
there is a provision of ad interim maintenance. You must have heard about interim, but now there is also a provision of ad interim. It's like that interim से भी interim. इसका मतलब यह है कि interim decide करने के लिए you have to have the computation of affidavits and assets, which is the particular requirement income affidavit which says. लेकिन उससे पहले generally उसमें भी time लगता है because when you go to court will issue summons, the party will come, they will be directed to file the income affidavit. On the next day they will come with the income affidavit, they will be exchanging the income affidavit, then the court will hear the arguments. But now in the case of ad interim, you can request the court itself on the first date. If you have some proof of the salary, if you have some proof of the remuneration if you have some proof of the income of the husband, you can ask for ad interim on itself on the very first date from the court. But again, it's a discretionary power, I would say. It's totally in the hands of the court. You can only request, and after giving some precedents, after showing some aesthetics, or after showing some evidence to your particular averment, so court might give you that relief.
Now, moving on to the next question. So, please, can you clarify what is the best and the fastest provision for claiming interim maintenance, whether it's under Section 24 HMA, 125 CRPC, or the DV Act?
DV Act is little bit fast because it is basically constrained to Mahila courts and Mahilas, women only. So if she would go for DV Act, she would then get better, and I would not say better, but I would say the earlier way to get the ad interim maintenance under DV Act.
So, ma'am, like you mentioned while you were giving a webinar, that there's a 2019 judgment, I am forgetting the name, which talked about ki a woman cannot claim maintenance in two areas, 125 and the DV.
He can claim. He can claim. That was a judgment which came in 2000 by Supreme Court. I told that in 2019 by Nikhil Dahani versus Tania Benan Dahani. That judgment itself says that the woman getting a maintenance in 125 will not be precluded for reliefs in DV. Maybe they can be adjusted. Amount can be adjusted. It's not that कि यहाँ पे भी बन जाए वहाँ पे भी बन जाए. हो सकता है वो amount वहाँ से adjust हो जाए, and the higher maintenance will be continued.
Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, that's
but
completely.
Nobody can preclude him for filing the relief.
Ma'am, the next question is, what are the provision and grounds for filing application for nullity of marriage?
This, as per the section 12 of HMA, which says that you can ask for an application for void marriages. So that is the provision where you can ask for the annulment or the nullity of the marriage.
So,
Yes.
ma'am, the question is from me itself. I wanted that if you can throw some light on judicial separation.
Judicial separation is a big concept, and these days it is coming coming much than divorce, because यहाँ पे ये हो चुका है कि husband wife साथ तो रह रहे हैं but they are judicially separated. उनके बीच में courts have already discussed about their maintenance, their visitation, custody, everything has been discussed. The only thing is that they have not been divorced and the division of the property has not been taken place. So this is one of the concept which is coming together nowadays. At the end of the day, people are still not happy. They still want to go for divorce, still want to go for proper annulment, so that they can have a separate feeling, because in judicial separation you cannot remarry.
Thank you, ma'am.
It is
Ma'am,
basically one word जो कहा जाता है, basically वो ये कहा जाता है कि it is often known as a divorce from bed and board. That's it.
right,
So
ma'am.
only a sexual relationship has been limited when you are in the process of judicial separation, and some monetary. Otherwise, you are still as good as you are married, and you cannot remarry in these kinds of judicial separation degrees.
Ma'am, Sujata ma'am has a question from you. For in form of a query, like she asked, it's a situation that the case that she filed in the court prior was settled between the parties, but now after some time the harassment has again started on the women. So what is the next remedy? Should she file a complaint again in the court? What are the
She has already filed a case. She has already filed. Can you
ma'am,
repeat it?
yeah, I'll just explain it further. Ma'am, the situation here is the girl had filed a complaint before the court and it got settled. So after that, after some time, the harassment started again. So now she wants to know what are the available options for her. Should she approach the court or the police?
If she would have heard my webinar, then I have explained this situation. I have explained the same thing in my case, where the settlement has been occurred in family court. The husband again started the violence and he's again violated the terms of the settlement. Herein she has many remedies. One is that she can go to the contempt of court. She can go and file the contempt petition in the High Court. She can also reopen those cases. She can restore those cases. She has signed or she has withdrawn from the courts, so she can reopen those cases again on the basis of the breach of the settlement. So these two provisions, she can do it immediately. She can immediately go to the contempt of court petition, and the notice can be issued to the particular person.
Thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, there is one question that Advocate Zoya Mehta, ma'am, would like to ask you in detail and personally. So, if I may just request Zoya, ma'am, to come online and, ma'am, we can have your question, please.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Your session was very, very practical and very enlightening, ma'am. My question is regarding the jurisdiction in the criminal cases, ma'am. Now, as far as 498A cases are concerned, it has been very well established according to the that Rupali Devi's judgment, and even Ruhi and Anis's judgment, Ruhi versus Anis. So now I have a particular hypothetical situation which I'm posing here. Like if I say that the wife, she on her own consent goes to her leaves the matrimonial home, goes to the parents' house, files a case, and then after some time she returns back under the court's order to the husband's house. Now during that time when she's staying with the husband, the charge sheet gets filed after an inordinate delay of around 2 years. So do you think that we can go for, what kind of a remedy do we have? Can we go for a quashing petition under this, wherein the jurisdiction in some way has been violated here in the FIR, and as well as while filing the charge sheet?
No, one thing is that if the girl has again gone to the husband's place, that means that the matter has been settled out.
So that is what
Maybe by the virtue of court's order, or maybe by because court cannot force anybody to stay together. One thing is that no court in matrimonial can force a partner to stay with some other partner, with your partner.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
she has gone back to the husband's place, some other place, so it means that the matter has been settled between them. So they together can go for quashing of the particular case. 498 can be quashed because the said crimes is basically it's not basically not against the state, it is basically against the particular person. So ये cognizable की वजह से ये जो है आपका सेटल हाई कोर्ट में जाके आप इसको क्वेश्चन करा सकते हो. लेकिन अगर हाँ कोई ऐसा केस है आपके अगेंस्ट या आपकी डॉटर के अगेंस्ट जिससे कि आपका जो पॉस्को में है या किसी चीज में है, दैट कैन नॉट बी क्वेश्ड. वो क्वेश्चन नहीं होते हैं दो द मैटर हैज बीन सेटल्ड बिटवीन द पार्टीज. ऐसा भी केसेस आए हैं हमारे पास जहाँ पे हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ हैज सेटल्ड देयर डिस्प्यूट्स after the FIR has been registered under POSBOXO for the daughter only against that man, but still court does not settle the matter, then they continue with those FIRs because they say that the said offense is against the society and against the public.
Yes, ma'am, I understand here what you're saying, and in the particular hypothetical situation which I'm saying, in this the wife suppose says that I do not want to settle, I want to live with you and also continue with the 498A case. So
if she wants to live with him also with the estranged relationships only, that's what you want to say.
Yes.
She will go there and stay as a matrimonial home because that is a matrimonial home. So it's still then also the FIR can only be, they cannot go for quashing because these said right now currently the situation is that she has moved again to the husband now, but at the time of filing of the FIR she was there. So it is not the ground. You cannot go for quashing. Then again, it's a discretion of court for asking for quashing. You can make this ground, but then it's again upon the court's discretion that whether they go for quashing or not. Because at the time of filing of the case, she was there in the particular jurisdiction. That is why the case was being lodged, the FIR was being lodged from that particular jurisdiction. Now, if she has, because of the settlement, या किसी भी वजह से if she is shifted to a matrimonial home, it doesn't mean that the said FIR should be quashed. Yeah, but this can be a one ground for defend. This can be one ground for taking a defense in transfer petition.
Transfer petition, yes. And ma'am, another question, if you may allow, ma'am, it's regarding the custody of children. So, in a household where one of the parties, one of the spouses apprehends that the party will take away the children, so what kind of remedies do they have?
They've taken away the children. You have to file the case of custody. If the particular person has taken away the children, but one partner has taken the children from the custody of the other partner, then in that case, you have to file the custody case from that particular jurisdiction only where the child is staying. Supposingly, if the child is staying in Delhi but has been moved to the Agra, so you have to file from Agra, but not in every cases. I must say that is not that is a temporary jurisdiction. So there is also one judgment which says that कि बच्चा अगर remove किया गया है, but that is a temporary removement of that particular jurisdiction. तो आपको केस आगरा से नहीं बनाना, आप दिल्ली से ही फाइल करो. And you have to move that precedent of particular judgment. You will find it is very good judgment. मैं आपको ढूंढ के दूंगी, अगर आप लेना चाहे तो आप मुझसे मांग लेना. I will give you. There is a judgment. It's a very good judgment which says that a temporary removing of child from his permanent jurisdiction will not amount the shifting of the jurisdiction.
Okay.
बच्चा कहीं पढ़ रहा है स्कूल में, एक हस्बैंड उसे उठा के ले गया, तो उसका परमानेंट jurisdiction तो दिल्ली था ना. The wife can file the case from Delhi. It's otherwise, as per law, if you see, you can only file the case where the child is residing. So at present, as per the law, the child residing in Agra. But
Yes.
as per the judgment of Supreme Court, if the child has been removed from the permanent jurisdiction temporarily, though it will not make another jurisdiction. This is there is a judgment of Supreme Court on this. I'm not knowing. अभी मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा नाम.
मैम बाद में
But
दे
अगर आप
दीजिएगा.
ढूंढोगे तो it is
Yes.
very common.
Or I'll
But
search it.
you should know this concept.
Yes.
जिससे ये concept पता होगा तो अगर आपके पास कोई case आता है तो at least you can immediately work on it कि नहीं, you can file from here.
Okay. Now
Thank
one
you.
more question.
And one thing was more, Zoya, in that case, if other thing is that where you do not know about the whereabouts of that particular child and the husband,
Yes, got it.
where he has taken, in that case, you have to file the habeas corpus.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Thank
one
you
more
so much.
question, if you may allow.
Yeah, yes, no problem.
Ma'am, you talked about perjury in the cases. Like we see all these FIRs are not based on real facts. Sometimes they are. I'm not just defining it, but mostly, you know, people are trying to allege each other on various non-existential grounds. So you talked about perjury. So perjury happens obviously not on the FIR if she's also saying that, oh, yes, this happened in the court. So she can be charged for perjury. Now in India, it's not a very well established. People don't go for perjury filings. But if at all you want to go for a perjury filing, how can we do it while the case is going on? That case in which she has purged.
Yes, in that case only you have to file an application.
In that case itself, as an IA?
Yeah, as an IA only. I have filed in Supreme Court transfer petition.
Okay, ma'am.
One of my cases, the girl has alleged that she has been living here, but there were the proofs which was there with my client that she is not living here, she is living in the other place. But though she has filed a case in Supreme Court for transferring, so that we have filed a perjury in the proper going cases with a separate application, and immediately court took the cognizance. Though the court didn't took the actual cognizance of being penalized because women के against perjury इतनी जल्दी practically चलती नहीं है. The court, but court ने हड़काया था ये कह के कि Mr. Counsel, ask your client to take back this case, otherwise I will tell you. उन्होंने केस अपने आप ही टेक बैक ले लिया था, लेकिन बट आई वांटेड इट कि कुछ एक्शन हो कि मजिस्ट्रेट को करा जाए इसको रिमांड बैक. करा नहीं क्योंकि उनको लगा कि ठीक है मैट्रिमोनियल, तो मैट्रिमोनियल में थोड़ा सा रहता भी है कि लोग जजेस आर लिटिल हैव सॉफ्ट कॉर्नर कि चलो पीसफुल सेपरेशन हो जाए. किसी एक को पेनलाइज करके मिलेगा क्या? इससे बेटर है कि बिठा के बात कर लो भैया, आपस में सेटल कर लो.
Yes.
So this was one of the, but we have moved the perjury application in many cases, but it helps the parties to get at least settle the matter क्योंकि pressure बढ़ता है.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Very well. Very well.
Thank you, Zoya ma'am. Thank you so much, Dhruvi ma'am. Niteshwar, I would like to hand it over to you.
Yes, thanks a lot, ma'am, for such a long, detailed answers to the queries. We haven't seen in the past webinars such a detailed answer. So what Zoya was asking, Zoya, I also had a point to make. The thing which you were saying with regard to the perjury, since I have been also practicing a law, so we haven't seen this law is being developed a lot. It's only seen just as used as a deterrent weapon by the courts to deterrorize the parties rather than penalizing. One fact which I have came across, this is the first litigation which I have seen, is like a suit which has been filed by one of the sister-in-law against this girl who has filed a matrimonial case in her native place for a libel and damages. So this was the first of its case which I have seen in the matrimonial cases filed by someone stating that the thing which she has stated there is not correct and had maligned her image and has damagified. So, but I being on the girl's side and here on the defendant side, I took the plea that these cases, if started allowing to enter in the civil courts, there would be a plethora of cases coming around stating that, the images have been malign. So we have to see that the end and outcome and the conclusion of the cases. So if at that point of time, it appears to them that yes, they have lost it and the contentions which has been raised against the in-laws were not correct, then yes, they have the way. But in between, there are judgments which says these are the immature and impractical stages to file a suit for damages and libel, asking that their images had been malign by labeling the pleadings. In the matrimonial cases, we all have seen, I think Juhi ma'am is much more experienced than me in the matrimonial cases, so we have seen what kind of allegations the parties used to make against each other. So if we start allowing them, there would be a flood of cases. With this,
I would add one thing, Mr. Nitesh, that there was a couple which come up to me. They were like girlfriend and boyfriend. एक के wife ने complaint DV में उसकी girlfriend के लिए there were some defamatory statements. The girl has immediately, we have filed a defamation case against the wife of that particular person. So it is actually, even the courts has taken the cognizance on it. इतना वास्ट है मैट्रिमोनियल का एम्बिट कि आपका अपना you will be losing your mind कि कहाँ से we should file these things.
So we hats off to our speaker, to dealing with such cases, because the questions in these cases would never end. And we would, instead of asking from the subjects, we would be started asking you the practical things. So that's why the session starts going so long. With this, I'll take you over to the conclusion to Priyanka. Priyanka, please conclude today's webinar by thanking our today's speaker, Ms. Juhi Gupta Arora.
Yes, sir. It is my immense pleasure, ma'am, to take a moment to thank you. So thank you, ma'am, for such an enlightening session today. Our viewers have utilized this opportunity to gain from your experience and knowledge, definitely. And especially during this time of lockdown, as couples are managing work from home and spending most of the times together, most of them are considering...
Most of them are really having fights together.
Yes. Most of them are beginning to doubt their compatibility and they are feeling the weight of the relationship. So this is a very appropriate topic to discuss today. So thank you, ma'am, for taking out the time and answering the questions patiently. We are looking forward for many more informative webinars with you. Lastly, I would like to thank the viewers who have taken out the time to stay with us till the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful thanking note. Shobit, if your question will not take more than 2 minutes, I will allow you. Else, we are already running short of time. Ms. Juhi Arora, ma'am, has to leave the studio.
My kids are jumping outside the room and.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Sir. So thank you for informative webinar. Ma'am, I'll ask the question next time, sir. No problem, sir.
No, it's okay.
You can.
I do not want anybody to.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Go ahead. You had already taken 2 minutes.
Okay. Ma'am, in respect of from the webinar, what we have learned from Manish Kumar versus Sandhya Kumar, ma'am, what we have in respect of the breakdown of marriage and what we have learned just right now from the temporary removal. Ma'am, for example, if the house is owned by the grandparents and the husband and wife are living there, and wife sometimes takes the child after the marriage to her matrimonial from the matrimonial house to the parental house, and this happens after a few years also, and child is suffering due to this act, not able to concentrate on his studies, ma'am, because sometimes he's living out of Delhi, sometimes he's living inside in Delhi. Ma'am, what is the remedy the husband have? Can he file a suit for in civil injunction as well as the seek child custody? Because
of course he should immediately file a child custody case and visitation immediately.
And there's any remedy to, ma'am, like if we can like his wife is sometimes coming to his house and leaving
yeah. Tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
I will let you know. If the husband is not residing there, then the in-laws can ask for restrainment orders. Fine.
Okay.
If the husband is there, then the in-laws cannot ask for restraining orders, because in one of the case where the husband and wife were residing together with in-laws, then the wife shifted to her place, but
yes,
then husband also left that place after a while. Then we have got the case filed for injunction on behalf of the parents of the husband. But in that case, we have made the court proof that the husband is not residing with the in-laws anymore. So if the properties of the in-laws and the husband is not residing in that property anymore, and he has also left after the wife has left, or you have to make shift the husband some other place for a while for a temporary reside. So in that case, the in-laws can seek for injunction immediately against the wife.
Mother-in-law can file the mother-in-law can also file the domestic violence if if I'm just asking.
Domestic violence में ना ये चीज एक question mark है. It's like
Okay, ma'am.
domestic violence में mother-in-law cannot file against the daughter-in-law, ऐसा government कह रही है. Government ने
Okay,
कोई
ma'am.
affidavit file किया Supreme Court में. लेकिन I myself has filed some case on behalf of some mother-in-law against the daughter-in-law. Court has taken the cognizance. Court has issued the notice.
And
So you
ma'am,
can try
just
your luck. So you can
okay,
try
ma'am.
your luck.
Sorry to interrupt. And the other query is in respect of anti-suit injunction, what we have mentioned in Dr. Charanjit's case, ma'am. Were the parties were married in Delhi or Germany, ma'am? So just two
They were
questions.
married in Delhi. They were married in
Okay.
Delhi. They had
Okay,
one
ma'am.
child born in Delhi, one child.
One
We
in
were
Germany, ma'am.
actually, the stay of the girl was in Germany from last 6 years. So we were
Okay,
moving on the very thin ice. We were
Okay, ma'am.
moving on a very thin ice, but still I tried my luck and we got it.
Congratulations, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for the question. Thank you, and sorry for the delay.
I would like to take the opportunity of once again thanking you, Juhi Arora, for this special and wonderful topic, which we have taking the all aspects of the matrimonial discords and telling the solutions for that, basing on the practical judgments which you have cited in support of those. So we being the lawyers would definitely be benefited by that. And I once again request you to kindly provide us a list of those judgments so that we can circulate and enhance the knowledge of the other viewers also. Thank you so much, Juhi, for this wonderful session. We are certainly looking for more informative webinar sessions with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nitesh. Thank you so much. So am I allowed to leave the room?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Bye.